Hello, welcome back to the Trading Triangle once again on a Saturday of all days. How you doing, Kay?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much, guys. Happy Saturday to everybody. I know it's a little bit different from our usual routine, but hey, we gotta do what we gotta do, right?
Exactly, and it's going to be quite weird ending this today because I'm going to think it's Sunday and I'm going to be doing getting ready for my markets, updating certain things. But I don't actually have to do that until tomorrow, so it'd be nice to have the evening off.
That is true.
And I think we're both heading out after this anyway, so yeah, let's commence, shall we? Just thank you once again, Wolf, for letting us use the platform. We really appreciate it, and obviously we are just a couple of guys looking at charts, and it's not financial advice.
It's not and make sure you subscribe to Wolf and you subscribe to the Trading Triangle on YouTube. Let's not forget that.
Absolutely. And obviously, as always, we'll go through the kind of market as it happens. We'll go through our chosen charts and we'll go through the audience requests at the end. So if you put your requests in the comments as usual, and we will get to them towards the end of the stream. We always look forward to looking through those. Because obviously it gives us ideas and it also gives you another perspective when looking at the chart as well. So shall we jump into the week's action?
Let's do it.
Sweet. Here we go. Feels weird doing on a Saturday, doesn't it? So last week we had Apple, Nvidia, and Amazon looking good. Not many companies looking too bad. We've got Meta there, minus 1.43. We've got AMD right in the bottom corner there, bottom left corner, should I say, is minus 5%. What else have we got here? Nothing else really jumping off the page. Banks doing pretty well. What else do you see here, Kay?
Nothing much. It was pretty muted market. And I think when you go to the next slide, what's interesting is that the VIX is still pretty much in the, I think, 1920 range. Generally, VIX doesn't stay in that range. After the spike up, it generally comes down. I don't know why it's there for a couple weeks now, actually. Think about it.
Well, yeah. So you anticipate a bit of a move there, perhaps?
Yeah, because maybe they're waiting for earnings. Maybe that's the reason. But yeah, I think most of the market is basically waiting for the earnings. And with Netflix coming up, earnings. I know you covered Netflix. Maybe you can throw some light on what were some highlights on Netflix, and then Tesla coming up next week. So yeah.
Yeah, Netflix did really well. Really surprising, actually, from a personal point of view, because I thought they'd do quite, meet expectations. Sure, maybe beat a couple, but they did really well. They beat on revenue, beat on EPS really well. And the month-over-month subscribers count really increased from 4 million to 5.4 million, which 4 million was expected, but 5.4 million was actually achieved, which I think is absolutely incredible, to be quite honest with you, because obviously there's lots of different streaming platforms, but it just goes to show that obviously Netflix is still the king of streaming, and probably will be for quite some time, to be quite honest with you. I think just one last thing, we'll just touch on Tesla here, 0.26%. That's probably the flattest week ever for Tesla, isn't it?
It is. And also, if you look at the Tesla chart, and maybe what we can do is during the audience request time, we can take a look at Tesla chart. It's after the gap down that we had, after the robo-taxi event, that drop that we had, it's pretty much sideways trading. And that gap fill still hasn't been filled. I think we are basically waiting for the earnings. It might get a little bit more spicy closer to the earnings. We might see some, gap fill, and then right after earnings, we could see a drop. Typical buy the rumor, sell the news.
Yeah, I think a very interesting week coming up for Tesla, that's for sure. Earnings after the market close on Wednesday. I won't be covering it or sharing it because I will be in Spain, so I'll be looking forward to that. Next on the slideshow, we've got just obviously put to call 0.66. Various things are there on the left. Again, another quiet week coming up, in my opinion. We do have lots of Fed speakers kind of in and around each and every day. So just be careful if you are day trading or if you're holding high leverage positions. Obviously, jobs data, again, normally on Thursday. We're sitting in extreme greed. Does it feel like that, Kay?
I think so. The put to call ratio generally is around 7.7, and now it's starting to decrease. Now, keep in mind this, we're talking about S&P 500 put to call ratio. It's not like so it's you can tell that we are getting into the extreme greed. And generally, the November December should be a better month. So and you can see S&P 500 making newer highs every single week. 600 right around the horizon, and 500 for QQQ right around the horizon.
Wow, yeah, we'll jump into those charts obviously just in a second. But obviously, what was I going to say? I can't remember what I was going to say. Anyway, moving on. It's probably something really important. So obviously with that, we've got earnings next week, really kicking off this week. But I think it's the week after that people are really anticipating. Because we've got loads of big tech companies, but the biggest one here you can see on the screen is Tesla. I'm personally looking at ENVX, just because they've had a really tricky couple of years, to be quite honest with you, in terms of interest rates and product supply, etc. So it'd be interesting to see if they can shine some light on some future quarters there, because like I said, they're in a bit of a hole, to be quite honest with you. That's the only one I'm really looking forward to. Obviously, like I said, I'm going to be in Spain, so I'm a bit of a quiet week in terms of the stock market. So ENVX and Tesla, I'll definitely keep my eye on. Anything from you there? Okay.
Not much. Maybe just look at how IBM and 3M and GM they perform, but I'm not going to be covering any of those stocks.
Nice. Are you into QuantumScape at all? We got that on.
QuantumScope, no, I know it's a pretty what is that meme stock?
I don't think so. I thought it was just a semiconductor stock.
Is it? No, that's
I'm thinking of QCOM. I'm thinking of QCOM.
That's Qualcomm. Yeah, this
anyway.
QuantumScope. I think is that thought that was a meme stock. One stock that I might just keep an eye on is ServiceNow that I see now on the same day as Tesla.
We've spoken about that one before, and of course you've got newer brands who they supply Sharpies, so that's always really important. Anyway, we've got the first chart of the day, and this is the SPY chart. I basically highlighted on the SPY chart and the QQQ chart the week's action. You can see it's just kind of doing what a bull market does. It's just, you've got red days, you've got green days, but it's just kind of gliding upwards. And that's probably what we might see up until 600. I know, that's what I was going to say earlier. About 4 years ago when I started investing, it was obviously the election because it's 4 years ago. And October was not a good month. And I'm really surprised to see basically the price action in October now being so positive. I'm just wondering if we get a bit of reaction after the election in terms of a negative fashion.
Well, in my opinion, I think we will definitely get a reaction because, see, regardless of the fact who wins and whoever you want to support, the market does not like uncertainty, right? So right now, who's going to win? We don't know. It could be Trump, it could be Harris. But on 6th or on the end of 5th or 6th, it will be clear whether we are going in this direction or this direction, and the market can adjust. Companies can adjust. They now know which policy the government is going to implement, and then they can take action accordingly. I think the certainty is going to definitely help the market move forward. I think the 600 is right on the horizon for probably right after election day. I wouldn't be surprised if we actually get a big pop, whoever wins after this.
Yeah, and as you can see on the screen there, it's only 2.64% away, which I think is crazy. Obviously, last week it's 3% something, which is ever so gradually getting closer and closer to that 600 mark for SPY. On the contrary to that, if we do get a bit of a downturn, we do break this trend line. I'm looking at 571. That's where the volume is. Some people might have 574 because obviously the previous resistances I've kind of drawn there. But I kind of point my kind of sword towards the volume these days, just because obviously volume is the market essentially. So any levels you're looking at for downside?
I don't know. The trend has not changed for the downside yet. Until we see some selling and they break the trend line, I don't see any reason to think that we'll be getting a downside.
Yeah, and that's the purpose of not putting the reason, sorry, that I've not put the moving averages on here, just because if that trend line doesn't break, then why should the moving averages break? So anyway, moving on to the QQQ, similar sort of story, just gliding up, but we do have obviously a break of the trend line from last week. So again, I've got the box there. You can see that's the week's trading action. What I like to see is a trend line breakout, and we kind of had that with the Nasdaq, which I really quite enjoy, especially for obviously holding many tech stocks as we probably both do. So we've got the breakup above here towards kind of 498-ish, and we came back down and retested it on Wednesday, and we've kind of pushed up a little bit ever since then. And I do anticipate maybe a move towards 500 this week. I've been going to be bold and say it. I think we get that fairly easily, maybe within Tuesday, Wednesday's price action, just because it's not that far away percentage-wise. I think it's only about 1-2%. So I think we see that. What happens at this level? Completely different story. Could be obviously a double top situation here, or we could just break straight through it, coming up to the election, etc. Any thoughts on the QQQ?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. The 502.81 is the resistance. 500 will be the psychological level. So if it breaks, the chances as we might still continue to see an uptrend. But the chart is different for QQQ versus the SPY, right? SPY is like a classic higher high, whereas in QQQ we saw pullbacks a lot more. But I think key Tesla, and next week all the big tech, the big seven, the Max 7, reporting earnings. Apple, Amazon, Google, Meta. I think next 2-3 weeks will be crucial for QQQ.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, lots of tech groups in the QQQ, isn't there? So that could definitely move that. Good point there, Kay. Yeah, that's kind of it for SPY and QQQ. Obviously, as mentioned before, do put your tickers in the comments. I know we've got a couple already. We've got JBLU and Tesla. So we're happy with those. To keep them coming. We're happy to go through a few of them at the end of our suggestions. Well, not suggestions, end of our charts. And with that, we'll jump into my first chart. I feel like we're going a bit quickly today. Okay, maybe we should slow down slightly.
Okay.
First one up, I've got DraftKings. I've been banging on this one for a couple of weeks, and it's just basically traded flat for a couple of weeks. So my theory is still there. It's just taking a bit longer for that theory to play out.
Okay.
The last 2 days we can see is a bit erratic. Thursday came all the way down to the 50 moving average and the trend line support. So that would have been, in my book, a good time to enter potentially. Just because it's 2 points of confluence. What I would have liked to see is a bit of volume down here, but I guess that whole bulk is still a bit of volume. And then Friday we kind of gapped up, touched a 200, and then came back down to kind of the middle parts. So just a crazy couple of days, and we kind of ended just above the middle, which I guess is bullish. But ultimately, what I'm trying to look for here is a break above the 200 moving average, which is obviously this red line kind of punching through.
Yeah.
The ultimate level is 40. I've said 40 for the last couple of weeks, so ultimately get above that. But I think it's finding it hard to get through the 200 moving average. You can see it 5 times there, twice there, and another couple of times here. So I guess that's the major resistance, as it is for many stocks around this sort of market cap. And last point on DraftKings, I would say just these nice higher lows. So obviously we set the low beginning of August down here, another higher low, another higher low here. So that's good to see, but I just really wanted to get through $40. And the logic side of things as well, I'll just wrap it up with this. The logic behind this is that obviously sports season is back, basketball, football, obviously English football as well. I imagine you guys bet on as well, because obviously it's so popular within the world. So basically sports are back, and you can just, I know it's a sin stock and it's probably not the most healthy stock in the world, but it's a money-making opportunity, so I'm going to have a look at it either way. So yeah, any thoughts on this one, Kay? Before
No, this is interesting, and we have Dina on the chat. She says Neo chart looks very similar to DKNG, so we'll definitely cover Neo as well. But I agree with you, and I think the 200-day moving average is the key. If it breaks and makes that as a support level, I think we can probably see some new highs. But until we get some catalyst, and there's no catalyst. The earning is what, 3 weeks away, 11/7, right? So that's 3 weeks away.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we have 18 down revisions on the EPS for DraftKings. But hey, we have seen this before. Market can stay rational. We can see some kind of a news coming out on DraftKings. And with the season coming up, we could see an uptrend. But for now, I think there's no trade until we actually see a break from the 200-day and makes that as a support.
Yeah, unless you did a high risk opportunity and got in here, obviously, with that kind of free.
Yeah, of course. Yes, if you already on a trade, then that's a different situation.
Yeah, no, definitely one to look at. It's definitely on my watch list. It has been for a couple of weeks, as I mentioned. So that's DraftKings. We've got a couple more suggestions. Oh no, only one actually. Coin. I think people are very anticipated around kind of Bitcoin in this last week. It's moved really nicely. It's broken that trend line. So maybe we could bring up Bitcoin as well. I'll just touch on that. I think I'd like to do that personally.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. BTC.
We'll jump on that one. Without further ado, we move on to the next one, and this is Micron, semiconductor-related stock. And I like this. Basically, to close this gap that was created in mid-July, and it's about 128. Probably should have put the actual amount on that, but you could also extend that to 132 because there's a big old volume bar here, as you can see on the right side of the screen. Really simple. This one is pushed through this 200 moving average and the trend line, and it's looking like it's going to come back down and retest this area roughly around kind of 109. and then obviously hopefully make that move towards 128. So there's a good kind of 10% in there, and that's kind of all I've got to say on this one. Just a really clean, simple setup for everyone to kind of enjoy and look at. Any thoughts with Micron?
I think it's a good setup, and just to add from a fundamental standpoint, you have a strong buy from Wall Street and buy from all the other analysts as well. So
Yeah.
I feel like this is definitely in the news, and the stock is not like from a 52-week range. It's right in the middle, so it's not like overbought or closer to a 52-week high. So short interest is 3%, so nothing too great, nothing too crazy.
I think I'm going to urge a bit of homework for you and the watchers. Have a look at Micron on the weekly chart. I think it looks pretty good as well on the weekly chart. So go ahead and do that a bit later on, and you can make your own decisions around Micron. So with that, obviously, you can follow me on X. I'm very, very vocal at the moment, just kind of really loving X for some reason. Not so much on YouTube, although I am streaming lots of earnings calls and giving my thoughts throughout the calls. So I obviously really enjoy doing that. And the newsletter, of course, is a little bit quiet at the moment, but who knows? I might bring it back soon. So obviously do subscribe to that as well. And the handle for that is @SHAUN Trades with a little bit of an underscore, but I take it away because it doesn't look so good. So yeah, anyway, with that, we'll jump over to Kate's first chart.
Awesome. Appreciate it, man. So the first one, so for a change that I decided not to do semiconductors, it's been a while. I did, by the way, on my channel, I will be posting a video next week, early next week on NVIDIA, since NVIDIA earning is coming up, and there are some very good setups for NVIDIA. So, but this is not the time for it. The first one is GitLab. And GitLab, interestingly, what is happening in this nice setup is, if you notice, the DraftKings had the same. Was it DraftKings or Micron? DraftKings with the 200-day moving average, right?
So this one, yeah, so Micron with 200.
Yes, 200-day moving average. So the same thing is happening with GitLab. Is that you have they are sitting right around the 200-day moving average. I think right below the 200-day moving average, and the stock has been below that for a really, really long time. So it's almost like since mid of May, once they broke down, the stock has been trending below the 200-day for a very long time. From a fundamental standpoint, the stock has, year over year, they have gained 31% on the revenue side. The current price targets for a lot of analysts are around the $70 mark. So, and there are 22 up revisions for the upcoming earnings. Earnings is in 12/4, so we still have a lot of time. Now, when we had the gap down, which was back in March after that disastrous earnings, from the current standpoint, we have a 20% upside for that gap fill. Now, do I expect that to happen right away? No, but from a long-term standpoint or even a mid-term standpoint, GitLab is getting a lot more traction by the analysts, which means that they are covering GitLab a lot more. And GitLab, because of the type of the software it is and the services it provides, and if you don't know, I would highly recommend. If you're interested in the SaaS space, definitely check out GitLab. This is becoming a lot more talked about stock. So I wouldn't be surprised in the next 3 to 6 months, we start to seeing GitLab going back above the $65, $75 range. And SaaS stocks do climb. We just had 2 years of pretty bad 2 years for all SaaS stocks. Pretty much every single SaaS stock, you can pick it up. So a good setup. No trade as of right now, because again, we will still want to see the 200-day break and stays above the 200, make sure it tests and doesn't break down. And once we know that that's the established support level, that's when the trade will take place. But something for you to keep on your radar if you are interested in the SaaS space.
Yeah, I really like this one from a fundamental point of view, as you just mentioned, and actually a technical point of view. And I mean, what I'm looking at here, and it's a breakout trade. And as you mentioned, it's that kind of 200 moving average level, but also there's resistance around this level as well.
Yeah.
And then just a really simple gap close around that $70 mark. But what I also like is the lower heights, higher lows, sorry. So we set the ultimate low here, kind of beginning of August, and then higher low, higher low.
Yep.
And obviously, maybe we come back down here and we test it again, and then make another higher low and push through that level finally. So yeah, I really like this one. I've written it down with a little bit of details as well. So I've got that ready for the week ahead. Really appreciate it, Kay.
Yeah, great. Okay, next one.
Oh, I've lost it.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Next one. So this chart is not as clean as the previous one. By the way, I don't know if you guys noticed or not. You might have seen that my chart a little bit different this time around. So what I removed the grid lines. I used to have
yeah, you
grid
did.
lines on the chart. I removed the grid lines because there was just too many lines, and I was getting a
Yeah.
little annoyed. This one, unfortunately, I still have the Fibonacci levels because it's important to show these. So the earning is coming up. Oh, funny thing, the earning is on 10/25, same day as Tesla. So I might cover the earnings. I don't know if I will or not, but I might cover. This stock, you have 33 up revisions. So analysts are expecting the EPS, they will have a beat. And unlike GitLab, where it's a 30% upside for the gap fill, this is only a 7% upside for the gap fill. So might not be a big trade in place, but because it has been trading at this range of $80, like between 78 and 81 is basically, this is the sideways movement on the Shopify stock. I love the stock. This is in my long-term portfolio as well. I continue to buy and add to my portfolio, but I trade the stock often as well. So honestly, I like the stock, how it's performing. Earnings are coming up. So for the earnings play, I might not do the earnings play, but from an option standpoint, I might be selling cash secured put right around the 75, or right around the 20-day SMA, which is what, 81. But that's how I'm looking at this one. 7% upside. What do you think?
Yeah, I do like it. It's not as clean, I think, as the GitLab
The
one.
GitLab, yeah.
Yeah. For me, as for my strategy, should we say, or what I look out for, just because I don't really look at shop as an opportunity either. I never really had it on my watch list, like, ever. I know people have done well out of it, and I like that, and obviously hope you do well of it as well. But from a technical point of view, yeah, I'm not. Basically, I prefer GitLab.
Yeah. No, because makes some sense. Because see, not every stock will fancy you.
Yeah, and also there could be a potential for an RSI divergence here, just looking at the technical side. So we've got a bit of a higher here on the RSI with this price action, and then the price action goes higher, but the actual relative strength goes lower. Doesn't really mean much going into earnings, but just kind of keep an eye on that if you are looking to kind of go long, because that's typically a signal for it to reverse to the downside. Whether we get that or not, we'll see. But yeah, I'm looking forward to earnings on Wednesday. I won't be covering it, of course, but I will be watching it if you're covering it. Why not? I always like to take as much information as possible. Who knows? It might get me to Shopify finally. Nice. Okay. Should we move on?
That's it from my side today.
I keep not clicking on the right thing. Here we are.
All right. So yes, you can find me on X. I do post pretty much every single day. Some of those trades that I take during the week, I do post those as well. So definitely follow me there. YouTube channel. Been on YouTube for like 4+ years now, man. Or 4 years, I think. So yeah, so it's great. I post videos pretty much weekly. A couple good videos are coming up. One will be on Nvidia. So definitely make sure, if you're interested, follow me there. Substack, not so much, but yeah, feel free if you want to follow there. InvestK. And let's jump into the audience request.
Yeah, sweet. I think we had a couple on Twitter. So X, we had Microsoft and SPY. Obviously, we've done SPY.
Yep.
And Microsoft we can cover. We can add to the list. That's for Justin, who does regularly pop in every week. So we'll definitely get to that one, Justin.
Okay.
We do appreciate your watching. And I will just set up the stream. So you get the list together.
Yes, I have my list here.
We don't want to see that. There we go.
So I have this. I have somebody, Blue Balls DC. Check BLU. Is that, what is that? I've never heard of that.
I'm not too sure if that's a serious comment. I must admit.
Okay. All right, then
we could try it. I mean, there's not many 6-letter tickers. Let's put it that way. You get 5 in the OTCs, but not many 6.
Yeah, I don't know what BLU is.
It's probably it might just be a meme coin. Right, I've got that ready. Here we go.
Okay, so we can start with the first one, which is JetBlue, JBLU.
JetBlue. Wow. Okay. There's a good couple of days, didn't they? Did they report earnings or something? Oh no, they haven't. Is this related to Boeing, perhaps?
So JetBlue is a airline company. Let me see what's going on.
Yeah, I've seen them around.
Solid results from United Airlines.
That's a big move.
So it's a massive move. What happened?
Considering might have a bit of news here.
Spirit Airlines dead.
That's Spirit Airlines, though. That's different. Okay.
They report earnings on 10/29.
Yeah, so that's Tuesday following.
Correct. And they have 7 up revisions and
Ooh, I
3
like that.
down revisions.
We can see very clear resistance here at 750-ish.
That was a pretty clean break also, though.
Yeah, really clean break. So in this particular case, because there's no real catalyst or real news event, obviously it's probably related to other airlines, which we get. That's not a problem. We got Boeing, I think, reporting earnings this week as well. So without that really concrete news, I would expect us to maybe come back to 750 or 760 even, maybe this bit here, and that would be a good entry for me personally, because that's a textbook breakout trade for my strategy at least. So yeah, definitely adding this one to the watch list. Thank you very much, a girl and her fork.
And I think she mentions that American Airlines did also have a significant run. So let's take a look at that.
So I imagine it
AAL.
was across the board of airlines then, it must have been.
Yeah, actually, she's right. Some massive, and the interesting with that run, American Airlines has pretty much filled that gap.
Oh yeah, almost very, very close.
Yeah.
Gap fill is at 1344, and also breaking above that 200 million average as well. That's pretty important for sure.
Exactly. I think the resistance definitely is going to be the 1345 on American Airlines.
It's quite a turnaround really for both airlines. I mean, this one, for example, from the lows up to where we are now, that's 43%. It's quite a move.
Yeah.
Anyway, what's up next?
Next up is Tesla.
Here we go. We'll spend a bit of time on this one, I think.
Yes, this one is very, very interesting.
What do you anticipate for their earnings, perhaps?
I think for the earnings leading up to the earnings, they will probably do a gap fill. And most likely it's going to be a sell-off from there. And the reason, and let me tell you the reasons why I think. So the delivery numbers were okay, nothing great. The robo event kind of gave away that nothing is ready right now. It's going to be coming up in January 2025. California and Texas, they will have full self-driving, and the robotaxi will come in 2027. So the problem is that for long-term investors, that's not a problem. You can buy the stock, buy and hold, or keep adding it. Problem is for traders, problem is for analysts who are looking from quarter over quarter. So if nothing is happening this quarter, nothing is happening next quarter, guess what's happening? The stock is going down.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
We've seen that a bit with Rivian as well. I know it's a very different market cap, but similar sort of industry. They posted really good really good vehicles, but they posted it for 2026. So you can't really expect any revenue to come from them anytime soon. And also, does the cash that they have burn before they even get to that point? So in other words, they need to get an investment for some sort of thing. So, kind of looking at the future 3 or 4 quarters, you kind of get a bit sticky and you kind of turn away from it. Obviously not the same sort of story as Tesla, but kind of the same sort of thing. Are we seeing a little bit of trepidation around the future of Tesla, at least immediate future? That's why we're seeing this price action. And that's why I think we'll actually break down to 200. Dividend Dog actually posted a tweet today around Tesla and kind of where he thinks it's going, or where he was asking other people where we think it's going. Sorry. And I said, obviously, heading down to 200, not only technically, but also logically, and obviously for those reasons we just mentioned. But technically, we'll jump to the chart here. Obviously, the daily's kind of slowly moving up. I know you said about a gap fill. Did you think this gap fill, the 230?
Yeah. The gap down that we had right after the robo event, so that gap, I think, is going to get filled leading up to earnings. And then we may see a sell-off, because I think that there are 2 things that are happening for Tesla. One is there's a lot of anticipation on the new Model Y Juniper when that release is going to come out, because that's the new change, that there's going to be new version of Model Y, which is the best-selling car today. And second is Elon Musk is too busy with politics right now. So until November 5 comes and things get decided, I think that may still play some role with Elon getting involved with the speeches and everything. He's a little bit too vocal, but yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a sell-off, because what is that we're going to learn? I don't know, because they showcased everything that they wanted to showcase from a vision standpoint. Now it's all about the numbers, and I think in the earnings call, I think even if you don't listen to the earnings call, I think listening to the Q&A session will be important, because I think analysts are going to ask a lot of questions, tough questions there.
Yeah, I think the lack of detail they gave throughout that event as well is quite outstanding. And the rumors around actual humans doing the kind of AI bot, what's it called?
Yeah, but that is okay, right? I mean, so you're not buying Tesla stock because of Optimus today.
Yeah. Well, no, but you
No,
got to know a
from a
little.
long-term investor standpoint, right? I mean, if your horizon is 10 years, that's a different case. But for most long-term investment, from an institutional standpoint, is 1 year plus. So that, from a tax standpoint, they are looking quarter over quarter. They are not looking to buy and hold like retail investors for 20 years.
And that's why I think we might be heading down slightly, just because of that, lack of anticipation, I guess. And back to the technicals, I think obviously we've got a bit of a bear flag here. We have had that big move down. And I just think with the momentum, with obviously everything around, as you mentioned, with Elon Musk being more into politics at the moment, I do think we just dribbled down, and the attention turns on semiconductors, NVIDIA. We're going to touch on NVIDIA, I think, in a second around that sort of thing. But 200 is not that far. It's only down here towards the 200 moving average. And that will be an interesting spot for sure. And I think a lot of people will be adding there. Probably a few buy limit orders added there. So, interesting. Definitely interesting. And obviously, we'll see what happens on earnings on Wednesday. All right. Let's move on to the next one, shall we?
Yes. Next is NIO. It's right in your
NIO. Wow. Yeah. I mean, what a week. It's been quite predictable, I suppose, in a way. Enough. But you can see, obviously, this week's trading, we've got Friday, Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Monday. So pretty much last week I said, hopefully we get a bit of bounce here, got a bit of a confluence of 20 moving average and the trend line. And I was right to say that, of course, this support on two different things there, 2 points of confluence. But we have broken down below that, which is also a completely reasonable thing to do. And I actually said last week on last Sunday's one, if we do break the support, I anticipate the 200 moving average being touched pretty much immediately. And what have we seen this week? We've seen that 200 moving average being touched, not once, but basically twice. We did have some good price action going into Friday morning market. It was up 5-6% before market hours. But of course, that means nothing in terms of the Chinese assets on the US market. And subsequently, it was sold off down to kind of 522. Basically, this is the point where everything should really tick. So we've got that potential golden cross coming through. We've got the 200 moving average support. We've also got that volume that we're kind of sitting at around here. So there's lots of points of confluence around NIO. It just needs to be bought. People need to get excited again about it. I'm not saying we're going to run to $10 anytime soon, but this is the point where people will buy it. If not, if it does fall below that, then we're probably going back down here, unfortunately. But the company itself is doing wonderfully, so I don't see the reason why not. But we'll see what happens, won't we?
All I'll say is my leap calls are not doing well with NIO. So all right.
When do they finish?
Oh man, no, but that's why it's a leap call. So I'm okay with holding it.
What's the time limit on it though?
It's December 2026, and it's a $4 leap call.
Oh, you've got a while then. Yeah.
Yeah.
And last thing to touch on is probably this trend line that I've kind of drawn. It's really sharp trend line, so if we can get through that as well, that would be awesome. But time will tell with this one for sure. And obviously keep an eye on the Chinese market and all the news around the economy there as well, because that really does affect this stock at the moment. Anyway, that's enough time for NIO now. Let's move on.
Next is you can do Bitcoin first and then coin, or you want to do coin first and then Bitcoin?
We'll touch on Bitcoin first. There's not a huge amount to say with it, apart from just it's broken that kind of long-term trend line, which is not loading on here. Oh, hang on. I've opened up the wrong one. My mistake. I'll just open up this one here.
BTC-USD. That's the one.
Yeah, so I like to put up this one because I've got the trend line here. So really long trend line. It's kind of been formed since March. Just keeps hitting it consistently, which makes that even stronger as a base. We've blown through that this week. The volume is out of this world, I think, compared to previous months and years, etc. So it's definitely happening to the upside at the moment. We're just kind of waiting to see where it goes, where it forms a bit of resistance. Perhaps here, but I mean, you don't really get that much volume over a weekend. But yeah, that's kind of the only point I want to bring up, this kind of break of trend line, because it's a really serious break of trend line in my opinion.
I think if Trump wins, that might give a boost to Bitcoin, considering he was at the Bitcoin. He spoke to the Bitcoin investors, I guess.
Yeah, and the odds on at the moment, isn't he? So we'll see what happens in the next couple of weeks. But
It's what 15 days to go. We'll see what happens.
yeah,
Then next is coin. Yeah.
let's touch on coin. I don't look at this one much. Much like Nate back in the day, I don't have many good experiences with coin.
Coin. Yeah, he used to hate coin from the bottom of his core, I guess.
Yeah, get rid of these. And I think 300 was very, very psychological. So I'll just stick that there roughly for now. But you can see a similar sort of trend line here, but a little bit more dramatic, I'd say, obviously, because it's an equity. Kind of trailing down here, we've probably got a bit of resistance coming at 230-ish. But given the way it's moving and all the Bitcoin sympathy plays are moving, you could see that break pretty hard straight through, and then obviously a move towards 300 will be underway. But in terms of kind of thoughts behind coin, I don't actually use Coinbase anymore. I don't like it. It charges too much, basically, to buy and sell and withdraw money as well. I don't know if it's still the same thing, but it's been a couple of years for me. Do you use Coinbase at all?
I actually, no, I think I don't use it anymore. I actually, unfortunately, and I'll be, pretty open here. So when we had those bankruptcy on those platforms, what was the platform? I think Celsius had a bankruptcy. There was an FTX bankruptcy, and then there was another one. Forget the name of the platform. So I got caught up with a couple of them, and then I was like, man, this is getting too much, so I decided not to be investing. So what I do now is I do invest in Bitcoin, but it's on Fidelity rather than on Coin. Yeah.
So
I may still have Ethereum on Coin. I'll have to check. I have not logged in for a while now.
I do trade Bitcoin, but I don't invest in it. I know that people are going to hate that so much, but I do trade Bitcoin.
I don't trade it. I just use I just invest long term on Bitcoin. Yeah.
Any thoughts on Coinbase, or
I have not. Honestly, I don't see. I think that trend line, that's going to be the test, right? If you're looking for a breakout trade, you will have to make sure that it breaks, has a clean break, and then it retests before you get into that trade.
Yeah.
Because from here onwards doesn't give me much on on the risk. The risk is higher than the reward here, because we could get a rejection from the trend line.
I mean, the move it's made, you can just see on the screen, basically, in the last 7 trading days.
Exactly.
That's a whopping 33%. But what I would say is nice price action around the 200 mil average, obviously coming up above it, coming back down, retesting it, and making that subsequent move. So that's a positive move. But now, again, it's one that's happened already. So
I mean, if you are into options and you like selling options, then you can probably look at selling option. What's the white line? Is that a 50-day SMA?
50, yeah, this one.
You can look at a 50-day SMA for selling options, right? So what is that? What's the number for 50-day?
Sitting at 180.
180, yeah. So 180, you will get a decent premium on that. So you can look at that if you're interested in selling options. I don't sell options on Coin, but that's another opportunity.
So hopefully that was helpful for you, Alona. We're going to move on to the next one.
Next is actually SOFI. We just have it here, and then I have 4 other requests as well.
Lovely.
So, funny thing, the couple of requests on Twitter are not coming up on the chat here, so I had to go look at the Twitter.
Oh, okay. Good job you're doing that, because I'm not doing that.
Yeah. No, that's fine. We have covered.
Lovely. Cool. SOFI, I mean, we've had a bit of a flat week this week. Well, actually, no, that's Monday's trading action, isn't it? Well, big up on Monday. We had a bit of a £2 billion investment, was I right? Something like that happened at the beginning of the week.
They're doing a buyback, right? 2 billion buyback.
Oh, awesome. So that subsequent move about 10% on Monday, which looks really nice for my portfolio. Really enjoyed that. Obviously pulled back a little bit naturally, which is fair enough. We probably have to dive down into the smaller time frames to see what is actually acting as a bit of support, which I can do and will do once I find it.
I stand corrected. It's not a buyback. It's a 2 billion loan platform agreement with Fortress.
Oh, see, I knew it was 2 billion something. It's halfway there. Looks to be respecting the 2-hour chart. So one to watch, perhaps if it breaks to the downside. If you looking to short-term trade, SOFI, obviously 2-hour chart is a bit more of a short-term approach. But near resistance around kind of 1050, as you can see here on the screen. Let's make that exactly 1050. So if we can get through that, I think 12. I think I had it on my chart was the next one in line. Do you have a specific resistance in mind after 1050?
My goal. I don't have any specific resistance in mind because right now I'm looking at that trend line. So it got rejected from that trend line, right? I mean, unless it breaks that trend line, I don't see. Uh, um, but there is also that gap that they made while with that gap up, right? So that's a 10% downside for that gap fill.
Oh, right. So after just looking at the monthly there, look at that.
Okay, you move to monthly. Okay,
Yeah, no. So daily, which gap? This one.
daily. Yeah. That's a 10%.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So you're looking for it to come down to there.
Yeah, I mean, if it cannot break that trend line cleanly and you make that as a new support level, um,
I think
that gap will most likely be filled.
the earnings as well coming up very shortly on the 29th
Yes,
of
I think it's
October.
10:29. Let me
But the last couple of earnings have been pretty rough kind of so far in terms of price action. You can see on the screen here. So the last one was pretty much flat, followed by a move downwards, and then the one before that a move downwards, and then the one before that really big move upwards, and then came straight back down. So what people might think is, oh, it actually pumps on earnings, which it might do, but it obviously always loses to gains, at least up until this point. We'll see what happens on this earnings coming up. But plenty of good things happening around SOFI. So yeah, have a look at their fundamentals, by the way, really good in terms of growth in the last basically 2 years. So it's good to see from a company like that kind of disrupting the bank sector, financial sector.
Actually, I made a video on SoFi in September. That was, I think, third week of September, and it was a right nice setup on that one. And then we had this massive move. So I actually have already some of those trades that are still in progress, and I'm sitting nicely on those trades.
Nice. So yeah, it's moved up 28%
Yeah.
in the space of 2 weeks. Impressive. What's up next?
Next up is Microsoft, ENVX, Bumble, and BSW. Those are the last four that I have on the list.
Lovely. We'll cover those four and then we'll call it a day, I think. So Microsoft, I actually don't have a trade, so that ignore that long position I had. I did have a trade. Oh no, maybe I am still in that. I could still be in that trade. I'm not too sure. But it looks like I said last week on Microsoft that if we get a bit of a volume push to get back above the trend line, then it should be okay. And we did actually, because this is Monday's price action. But annoyingly, I'll zoom in a bit so you can see. But annoyingly, throughout the day, it got pushed back down, and then again, it gapped up on Tuesday, got pushed back down, finished here, and then gapped down aggressively on Wednesday, but then got brought back up. So at the moment, Microsoft is all over the place. It doesn't know what it's doing, and I think that's just down to obviously a bit of volatility in the market. It's a bit unsure, maybe going into the earnings. You've mentioned it for the last few weeks running around Azure. Kind of not sure what's going on around the success around that. But technically, it just continuously looks bad. But I'll wait for a move to actually confirm my thesis around which way it's going to go. Anyway, I'll let you talk.
No, I think for me personally, Microsoft is not showing strength right now because they are sitting right around the 200-day SMA, right just above 200 SMA. It actually went below during the market hours and of course closed above it. Earning is coming up on 10:30. I think the biggest concern that I have for Microsoft, at least in the short term, is they are not able to monetize the AI usage within the companies, right? So I give you an example. So there was a lawsuit. I think it was last year or early this year. I don't know when, but Microsoft generally used to sell. So if you buy the Office product, you will get the Microsoft Teams as part of it. So I believe Salesforce, Slack, they did file a lawsuit that this is anti-competitive. So now they are going to separate the product. So what is happening for general enterprise companies now? You're paying for Office products, you're paying for these communication softwares, and then on top of it, if you want AI, the Copilot piece, you have to pay separately for it. So within that, they have different tiers of like one tier is like you can get the whole spiel of AI with they can do the meeting minutes and all that stuff, versus one only just records. So I mean, hopefully the earnings will give us a little bit insight in the future guidance on how they are going to reshape the usage of AI by their customers, because all that hype, it's not showing on the ground, and that's a lot of concerns from a lot of analysts that it's not really converting.
And you might say that obviously being one of the biggest companies in the world, they should have the intelligence and know how to actually convert that into something. So
It's also not that so think about this. So a lot of large companies, or companies in healthcare, companies in finance, what ends up happening is like they are slow to adopt technology. Not every company is a tech company. So the rate of innovation is not at the same level. Now JP Morgan is a different type of a company. It's I think it's the number one company that is using AI, but it is not substantial enough to demand the price Microsoft commands today from a valuation standpoint. That's what I'm getting at. So we may think about long term. Long term is a beast, but we're looking quarter over quarter pricing.
interesting. It'd be interesting to see what they see on the earnings then.
Yeah.
You'll be covering that one?
Most likely, yeah. If my schedule permits, I'll probably be covering it. Yeah.
Awesome. Look forward to that. Earnings on the 30th of October.
Yes.
So not far away. What's next?
ENVX. I think that's the one you were looking at, right, for next week?
I've had this a few times for next week. I'm not too sure about next week, but I have had this one on the charts a few times in the past on these sessions. It's just really, really erratic. It moves a lot during the day, and that's fine. Obviously, that's where we make most of our money, if you get on the right side of course. I do like the fact it's come up above the 200 moving average. It's come back down and we tested it. Kind of may have missed that entry point around 1050, because now it's obviously sitting around 1150 ish. So that's already almost 10% on the move. But I'd have to dig into kind of what's happened recently on the company. I haven't checked it out for about 3 months, I'd say, maybe slightly longer. Last I heard that their battery technology was going really well and they're making them smaller, faster. All the good things around technology, smaller, faster is normally up there with the best. But we do have a little bit of a trend perhaps starting here. So this has been the bottom one here and then bring that up there. So maybe if it continues following that. I did once have a trade all the way up to 25 ages ago. Yeah, I know the graph is a bit messy, but basically caught that move almost perfectly, and I was really chuffed with that. But it's typical with these stocks, these smaller market cap stocks are very, very choppy. I don't really see much concrete, anything concrete here in terms of pattern-wise. Maybe just this trend line, see if it keeps following it up. Maybe wait for a break to the downside, perhaps. But like I say, I'd have to look into the company, see how it's performing in the last few quarters, because I haven't really looked at it, to be honest. Have you looked at this one?
Nope.
No? Okay. That's it then.
Next is Bumble BMBL. BMBL, yes.
Is this the online dating?
Yeah, I think so.
Seems to be going well. The chart, I mean, not the online dating. I'm married.
It has a hold rating from Wall Street, that I'll tell you, and a short interest of 12.2%.
So what I can see here, it may be a trend line. See how far. Wow, this has been really sold off. Wow. God, it doesn't stop. So this was once a $38 stock, and it probably goes higher than that. So I guess it's one of those meme stocks.
Yeah, I think I think when it IPO'd in 21, it opened and it actually intraday it hit $85 on day one.
Blimey.
Crazy.
We do have a bit of a higher low situation here. You can kind of briefly just see it above you there. It's still got a lot of work to do for me to be interested.
Yeah, and also the RSI is I think very close to 70 right now. It's at 67.83. So it's filling the gap. It's filling the gap. That's what it's doing, though.
Yeah, it's filling that gap. That's the first port of call. But on the bigger time frame, which I like to try and do more than anything before I go to lower time frames, is this trend line perhaps, but again, it's not the best starting point. It didn't touch here. It's only really touched here, so still it's not the most concrete trend line. You could even bring it down to there, maybe a bit more, a few more touches. But I mean, you could play around with lines for hours. But yeah, basically nothing concrete from me on my side of things for Bumble.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Yep. Next is BSW.
So BSW.
Yeah, B as a boy. What is that share though? BSW. Does it pop up for you?
I've got something on Binance at the moment. BSW. Am I spelling it right?
Yeah, that's the one. Let me look at the chat again. No, sorry. It's S as a Sam, BSW. SBS.
SBS.
Yeah. No, SBSW.
Okay. I'm not the only one. I'm confused there. I think the chat probably will.
Yeah, I was confused too.
So choppy stock. It gaps up overnight. So I'm guessing it's some sort of foreign stock.
What do they do? Let me see. They operate a precious metal mining company in South Africa, US, Europe, and Australia. They produce gold, platinum group metals, including palladium, platinum, rhodium, blah 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 blah. Okay, so into that.
Yeah, we don't cover commodities too much on this channel, but got a bit of a higher low going into a major resistance point there, being 200 moving average. So it could be a potential nice breakout trade there if you can get above that, come back down, retest it. I'd have to do a bit more digging into what the actual company do. I know you went over it slightly there, but I would want to have a look at their fundamentals and kind of how they operate a little bit before doing that. Another thing there, actually, you've got a little bit of head and shoulders, perhaps. If I could open the right thing. There we go.
You're right. That's a.
So you've got that to look at as well. Maybe resistance up here at kind of 585. Oop, wrong button. 585. Actually, that's a pretty good move, even if you got in and around here. I'd have to really pinpoint my entry, but that's about 32%.
Would you point an entry after that? What's that? 20 SMA or 50 SMA?
50 is the white one. The 200 is the.
Oh, so that's so basically you will not get in before they have a breakout from the 200, right?
Yeah, so I'd be looking for it to break out above here and then come back down and retest it, and then make a move higher. Potentially, I mean, you could have got in here, but no one was to know that would be a head and shoulders. It's not the most perfect head and shoulders you've ever seen, but nevertheless, it is still head and shoulders.
So moment of truth is the 200 break, which actually, if you think about it, we covered a lot of stocks today which are in this setup.
Yeah, strange, isn't it, given the market and the way it's been recently? Everyone's kind of hovering around, not everyone, but quite a lot of stocks hovering around their 200 moving averages, which is exciting. Nice, I do like that. I've written that one down. I don't know who brought that one up, but thank you.
That was on the Twitter. I don't know why that message did not pop up. So let me see whoever
it was.
It was Hef.
Well, thank you, Hef.
Hef_Eric.
Awesome. And let's move on to the last one.
No, that was the last one.
Oh, it was the last one. Okay, let's do video quickly. We did say we were going to touch on video, and we'll glaze over this one. I'll let you talk to NVIDIA because I know you're.
Yeah, so NVIDIA is kind of sort of, if you think about it, it's almost a double top here, right? And we have a nice little support level coming at 130, 132. Especially in the last few trading days, you will notice that we had 3 touches on that. Actually, 4 touches on that at that level, 130, 132. I'm looking at daily, right?
This is the daily, yeah.
Yeah, 130, 132. That's where the touches. Okay. So what I'm basically looking at, and if you draw the trend line from going from the bottom, which you already have I am expecting that we would have a rejection, come down, hit the trend line, go back up, hit rejection, and then see a clean break above that line of, what is that? Double top line at 139.79. That's the line that we need to break. Yeah, exactly. Come back, retest, and then that is where my entry point would be for a breakout trade. Yeah, if you are going to be selling options, there are a lot more trade ideas that I have. So the video will be posted, I think, on Monday. Yeah, so definitely check that out.
Yeah, awesome. I'll definitely be checking that one out. I think just to add on to that, I think throughout the week I got loads of updates around price target increases from banks, from analysts around Nvidia, which is not always a sign to invest or a sign to trade it, but it is a little bit of optimism throughout the kind of Nvidia company really to get those kind of price targets. I'm really struggling to get my words out. But basically, it's good to see that all these companies looking at kind of 180, 190, 200. There's loads of them that are coming recently. You're probably looking at them right now.
Yeah, and one thing that I look at, so if you invest based on price targets, remember price target is just a guideline that all these analysts throw around, right? So it's like they are throwing a dart on the dartboard. So what you should do is you should actually check based on the analyst price target how the stock has performed, and you will notice for majority of the stocks there's always a gap between the line. So if you use Seeking Alpha actually has that feature where they compare the price target versus the actual price. In case of Nvidia, you will notice that the price target and the actual price of the stock pretty much stays very close to each other. So I wouldn't be surprised if the price targets are 150. I think Goldman Sachs had a 150. I think BofA came up with a 175 or 180, something like that. I wouldn't be surprised once we have this breakout because of the Blackwell chip. It's already 1 year there's no more demand. I mean, there is no more. They can't supply Blackwell chips for the next 1 year. The demand is so much, and they are also building out another factory in Mexico coming up. So a lot more, I would say, action for Nvidia in the couple, at least in the next few quarters. It's not slowing down anytime soon.
No, exactly right. I think if people should follow you on X if you want to post that picture, because I think people will be interested to see it. I know I would be. So if you can somehow clip it and stick it on your X, that would be good for people to see.
Yep, absolutely.
Awesome. And we'll close out the stream there, I think. We'll just look at Urban Warrior's comment here. So a video on the 12-hour has a 12-hour has a bullish green box zone. Yeah.
Do you use? I mean, I have never seen 12-hour. I generally have seen 4-hour. I use 4-hour maybe a day daily, and weekly is what I generally use.
This is all I have. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 hours and a daily. But he might be using the extended hours charts. I only used kind of in-hour chart. That makes sense.
Okay.
Active hours. So you might have different options there in terms of.
Sean says, "I hope it rips to 150 this week."
It's not far away.
Well, I mean, so for if you already have a call option from long time ago and it hits 150, of course you can make profit. But if you plan to get in, I think you need to make sure that the break is clean and there's a retest before you get in for a breakout. That's what we're getting at.
Yeah, and the subsequent move there is 8.63% for the 150 move that you're talking about there, Sean. So be interesting.
Yeah,
interesting for sure. Right, let's move back to the screen. So we're looking at for this week, Kay.
Just Tesla. That's basically the main play for this week.
Awesome. I'll close us out then, shall I?
Please.
Thank you once again, Wolf, for letting us use the platform. We really, really appreciate it. And we actually almost hit 2,000 viewers today as well, which we actually had no anticipation of hitting anywhere near that. Obviously being a completely different day of being Saturday, although I think I'm going to leave this stream thinking it's Sunday, and that's completely fine with me. Because anyway, yeah. So obviously next week we'll be live on Sunday once again, but we've got to be streaming about 2 hours later because I'm going to be on a flight at the time of normal recording. But I will be here. I will be here to look through the charts and do the normal sort of thing. So we just love to do it, don't we, Kay? So
we love it. And next week, as Sean said, we will start a little bit later. Sean, thank you so much. We'll definitely cover more tickers next week. So if we did not cover your ticker request this week, make sure you come early and drop your tickers. We will definitely cover it. And yeah, with that, enjoy trading, have fun, be safe, and we will see you next week.
Yep, trade safe and enjoy the